My name is Naresh Shakya, and I'm inhabitant and the local of this place. And I'm doing my PhD in Buddhist art. And my topic is medieval Buddhist painting of Nepal. So my topic at the moment is the Newars contribution in Asian art. So I talk about the Buddhist visual art. So it doesn't cover any modern art. Of course, modern art also contributes greatly in the field of art. So this, I would say, very informal and academic. Some of the paintings are not dated. And if you want detail of some of the paintings or some of the topics, let's discuss it after the talk, or maybe we can discuss later. So if you are interested in some of the paintings history or inscription, if I have, I can provide. And let's make it interactive. So at the end or at the middle, we can just discuss on certain topics. I know some of you are better than me about the art history and painting. So this is the basic starting. And the very interesting point is this. Nepal is the only country where people have been practicing Buddhism since the time of Buddha. So you see, Buddha was born in Nepal, but most of his life he spent in India. And he spread Buddhism, and later it's the Ashoka the Great who spread more. He sent many missions. But in India, the land of the start of Buddhism, there is no Buddhism now. There are hardly any Buddhists left. And most of the Buddhists are converted Hindus. There are Sakyas who sacrifice in the month of Dasai festival. I have met Sakyas who sacrifice in UP. They are namesake Sakyas, but they do sacrifice and they don't follow Buddhism. And there are some evidences. Mul Sarvastivada Vinay is one of the very old Vinay texts which says about the pilgrimage, the business people coming to Nepal. So there is no exact name like Nepal in this text. It says Himawata Khanda, that is Himalayan region. And at the time of Buddha, I think Kathmandu Valley was somehow inhabited. It has some people here. And also we have some stories about the persecutions of Sakyas. They fled Kapil Vastu. One group of people came to Nepal, Kathmandu Valley, and one set of people went to Afghanistan. And we have clear connection with Afghanistan with its Buddha Bhadra. You must have heard the great Buddha Bhadra who around 4th century spread Buddhism from Kashmir to mainland China. And his father was a businessman whose the business center was in Jalalabad, the famous place where Osama bin Laden was killed. So there is some connection. In Mula Sarvastivada Vinay, there is a story about the Vinay rules. And Buddhists, especially Buddha, made rules very flexible. There was no hard and fast rule. He would improvise the rules according to the time. So, according to Mula Sarvastivada Vinay, when Ananda Bhante came to Himawata region, and he complained about frostbite. So he said, in Himalayan region, these shoes without shoes is very difficult. So they have frostbite. And Buddha said, in places like that, they can wear shoes. So this is one focal point. So you, to refer, um, it's a referral point for us to say that maybe this was Kathmandu Valley, and Buddhists fled from Kapilvastu, and there were many Buddhists, many Sakyas, in fact. So we need Sakyas of Kathmandu Valley needed some initiation. So Anandam Bhikshu might have come. So this is the base. And there are also great other bhikshus who came and taught Buddhism, like Vasubandhu, Asanga's younger brother, who was famous for Vigyapti Matra City, one of the very famous mind-only theory. He was the propagator. He was the person who just elaborated that theory. And he came to Kathmandu Valley around the 4th century. And it is believed that he attained his parinirvana here in the valley. And his asti is in Swambhu. There is in the parking area, just when you visit, when you go from parking area, few steps, and there is a big pond. Not big pond, it's small pond, and people throw coin on it. On the right, there's a stupa. So it is believed that his asti is there on that stupa. And other very interesting thing is Kautalya's Arthasastra. It is clearly said that out of 4 very important products in Magadha, the blanket, Ravi, something like this, he said it's very good from the heart. So this also refers that this valley was inhabited. There were people here, the culture was rich, and we have some artifacts to prove this. But unfortunately, we have big earthquake every 100 years. The biggest, we have already experienced one of the horrible ones just 2 years ago. And the dated earthquake, I think, I'm not sure, but it's 1255 AD, I suppose, when Abhay Mallat was killed. So we don't have very, very distinct, clear evidences since the time of Buddha, but there are some written records. And we don't have many records, like we don't have Arniko's record in Nepal, we don't have Vikuti record in Nepal. So we have to look to other places. And to find mural painting of 14th, 15th, or 13th or 10th centuries, you don't find it here in Nepal. You have to go to Tibet, China, and some other places. So now we come to, because my topic is about Newars, so let's elaborate a little bit about Newars. Newars are not one ethnic group. It's a combination of a big group. So Kathmandu Valley was like paradise in those days. Paradise in a sense, not physical. It is the place protected from Himalayan region. So it's very good for refugees from different Indian subcontinent. I give you an example. Sakyas were one of the first, maybe one of the people who fled from Kapilvastu and settled here. And every change in dynasty in India, there used to be people, refugees. So it's a heaven for refugees, because once when they chase their enemies, once they enter Chari, they'll just leave their enemies, because it's a very thick forest with many animals. Now, of course, there are hardly any wild animals left, but it's like a barrier. So we have many different groups of people, and you see the food we eat, the art we made. There's so many very diverse. You can see some of the food, like for instance, it's informal, so I'm just being very informal. We use woa, we call it the food, and we call woa in India is vara, and the process is same. Chatamari is same. Kha, most of the, there is no Nepali word for it. Kha is a little bit of milk, and you add a little bit of oil in it, and that's for good omen. We eat it, and same in South India. There is E in South India. There is Bara in South India. There is Sunti, we call it Tihar. Now it's mostly called Tihar, but we Newars call it Sunti for 3 days. And mostly in Maharashtra, it's also in 3 days. And they have exactly Lakshmi Puja and Ma Puja. There is no Ma Puja, but they use the same Govardhan. And thirdly is Bhai Dooj, worshipping brothers. They don't do Raksha Bandhan. So there is lots of connection. And that doesn't mean that I tell you one, I just found one very nice line from Dina Wangel. She says, although the roots of Nepal's cultural and religious heritage are closely linked to those of India and Tibet, it shouldn't be seen simply as extension of two great cultural traditions, but rather distinctively of Nepal's cultural and artistic heritage needs to be understood in its own term as indigenous development unity. So we have taken some of the ideas, but we have improvised it. And most of the art, I think, is that. We have taken ideas from all over the Asia, and we have improvised it. We have created a new form of art, and that I call Newar art, but there are people who disagrees. Some of the people, they say, we should say it as Nepalese art. But I feel it would be not very justified thing to say Nepalese art. But of course it's a Nepalese art, but it's a Newar art for me. So we can do discussion on this topic, whether to say Nepalese art or Newar art. Excuse me? You cannot hear me? Tasala Anji. Respect and Swayambhu, this is our main focal point. And for Hindus, Pasupati. This is, basically all Newars either believe Buddhism or Hinduism. So to talk of art, we have one recorded dated piece. This is one of the oldest dated art piece from 185 AD or CE. And it doesn't have any inscription, just the date. So for art historian, this is the oldest, but for historian, a basic historian, I think Changu Narayan inscription of 464 AD is the oldest. And my point is, see Indian art and see Nepalese art. India, a mighty country. At the time of Ashoka, it's one of the strongest countries in the world. And see Nepali, Kathmandu Valley. And most of the time, when you refer to Nepal in medieval time, it's Kathmandu Valley. So this is our product. So we have contributed a lot in the field of art. So today I'm just talking about painting later. This is just the beginning. And the problem is we don't have any painting of this time. So we just have some written record about painting of later time, 4th century. And you can well imagine that massive earthquake destroys most of the paintings. It's very fragile. But stone images are durable. And this was when, do you know about the story of this statue? This was not found in one piece. It was 4 pieces. and they just joined it and made it like this. Now it's in Townie Museum. And they were constructing the foundation. They found a whole city foundation. So instead of excavating, they just on top of that they built the building, government building. So now it's a very sad thing. But to talk of Buddhist art, the contribution of Newars to in Asian art. So you see, in Tibet, there are many nice artworks. And most of the museum, I was very disappointed when I went to Gyumi Museum. They never mentioned Nepalese section. They said Tibetan section, and Nepal was just part of it. We have actually contributed, like Tibetan art. I think the basis of Tibetan art was found by Newars. The paintings, till I think 1450, almost all the painters were Newars. And statues, even now we supply so much of statues to China and Tibet. So it's very disappointing. But this could be the starting of the contribution of Newar art to Asian art, and especially Tibetan art. Prakriti Devi is a famous known person, but there is no record in Nepal. We have to study all the biography from Tibet. And the first statue, Situ Kolong, was from 634. And Ramoche, even today you can find in Ramoche, there are two monasteries, one made by Prakriti Devi, other by Wencheng. Somchung Gampo married two wives, and he probably had more wives. But these two wives were very important. He wanted to bring Buddhism to his people. So if you just read Tibetan history, there are turmoils, but these two princes really changed the concept of people, the starting of Buddhism. And Rinpoche is one of the monastery where you still can find some of the very old Nepali artwork or Newar artwork. And if you say you're from Kathmandu, they'll just give you at least some present, a khada maybe. Even today, I'm very serious. So there are many things taken by Newars. You know, there's maybe many of old families, they have Tibet traders. Here in Patan we also have some Tibet traders. They tell nice stories. But after 1959, there was discontinuation of that tradition. And the latest political changes made it look like we belong more to the southern Indian side. They say roti beti. We also have, Newar community have more roti beti relation than the southern Indians. Like Newars is a huge history with Tibet and China. Now most of the people have forgotten that history. So the whole relationship they say now is not possible. They say Tibet is the terrain is too difficult. We cannot trade with Tibet. This is what the modern politicians say. They are very easy with southern side. They think Tibet is too far. They think China is too far. And if you see, I'll show you some of the pictures and show you some of the art. Just 800 years ago, they easily did some of the nice trade, and they took art to those places. And this is my favorite. You still find this in Jokang monastery, and they really preserve this. They have many times renovated whole structure, but they just don't just take it out and throw it. They just keep it as it is. And this is one of the very, very nice piece done by Newar carpenters. And see the interesting detail. This is from Ajanta, and see how they just copy. So this is the example. We take ideas from India, and we improvise, and we put it in special places. Of course, we take the ideas, we improvise. And this is one of the evidence that Newar artists, they travel a lot. Now you can see, now you can Google and find many things. You can imagine in 7th century, how would you make a copy of this? Not just this. This is just an example, like this one and that one. This is Elora, this is same piece. And most of you, I think, know him. He is the traveler, Vincent, who traveled from Tan Xi'an all the way Silk Road to Kashmir and came down to Kapilvastu. And he has, I think, 25% of the Indian history was based on his writing. Harsavardhana's all stories were based on his writing. There were no clear record in it. Harsavardhana was one of the great kings who patronized both Hinduism and Buddhism. And he was especially very partial to this monk, and the Buddhism really spread, and he wrote many things about Kathmandu Valley also. One very negative comment was, people of Kathmandu Valley are not trustworthy. That's what he wrote. And he wrote, there are paintings on almost every house. So you just go out and see, just run your eyes and you'll see the paintings all over. Even today, 21st century. He said that on the 7th century. We still continue with the art. And also he said statues, of course. Both. Now you can see, if you just go to Nag Bahal, there's a water spout there. On the right side, there's 7th century Buddha. There are 12th century standing Maitreya, it's Dipankara, I guess, and a small stupa with 4 sides, 4 different Buddha, 7th century. So we have art all over. And how we contribute, I'll show you. Silk Road. So this is a famous Silk Road. I did almost up to this, from Kathmandu to this area in 3 sections. First to Tibet, and then second Beijing recently, and third from Lanzhou to Dun. So you can imagine how Arnico would have traveled. I was in the fast train from this point to this point, 14 hours. The slow train maybe compared to what they make these days. And Lanzhou, coming to Lanzhou, 2.5 hours. So you can imagine how Arnico might have traveled from Kathmandu to Tibet, to Lanzhou, this spot, and to Beijing. And the Beijing being the center, and the Arnico being the minister of art, you can imagine now how his ideas of Newar art must have influenced the whole Chinese art. So he was the person. If you just make a biodata, or if you make a CV of Arnico, I think it would make a book. He was the chief artisan. He would make the gold emblem for kings. He was the supervisor of the crown making. He was the supervisor of porcelain. He was the supervisor of potteries. He was the supervisor for temples, monasteries, and all these were given in a title, very difficult Chinese title. So this is also a big contribution, and not just Arnico. Arnico went with 88 artisans. And why 88? Because just 1 year before, 1 year um, ahead, there was a big earthquake. There was very big destruction maybe. That is why we could only send 88 artisans. And he never came back. He was given 9 wives so that he wouldn't come back. And of course, his real wife went to Beijing later, after 2 years or 3 years. And there's a story about how the local people tried to stop, not to send his wife, because emperor was sending lots of gold to their family. So they don't want her to go away. The emperor wouldn't send lots of gold. And Oniko stayed, but there are many artists who came back, and there were many artists who went, but there's no record, at least here. But we can find it in some paintings, some places. And my experience is Mustang. In Mustang, we visited. You remember the big in Chuksang? There's, I forgot the name of the monastery. It's a huge monastery where you can find Newars style of art and very Chinese style. Some of the half-naked ladies. And Chinese wouldn't paint half-naked ladies. The face is very, very much like Chinese, but dress up like Indian. So it must have been done by Newars on the way back to Kathmandu. So these are, and why Silk Road is important? It is this route which took many, not just business, but ideas and religion and art. In China, after the starting of Silk Road means in China business and ideas, and interestingly, the palace-based politics became the monastery-based politics, and they started to build lots of big monasteries. Beijing, here they have big Bamiyan style Buddha, and here in Bamiyan there is a big Buddha. So this point and this point is like the whole stretch. They just have one big Buddha in Loyang and one Buddha in Bamiyan. So whole stretch, it's Buddhist art expansion, I would say. And Newars have made lots of contributions. In Beijing, you can see lots of new, old Newar art. And in Tunhuang, I'm especially interested in Tunhuang because there are some paintings which are preserved, which belongs to Yuan dynasty at the time of Arniko. And we have found some similar paintings, I'll show you. So this is most probably one of the oldest preserved paintings done partly by Newars. This picture is from the book called Sino-Tibet Art. Heather Stoddard is the author. She is a Tibetologist, and she has clearly indicated these two figures are not Chinese, not Tibetan. This is Newar painting. And this is very clear. You can see 836 was the time. After 840, Chinese took over this whole area. But at this time, Tunhuang was partly taken by Tibetans. 840 was the time when La Dharma created problems. So it was the downfall of Tibetan dynasty. So before that, Tibetans were the conqueror of Tunhuang. So this painting also has inscription here. So she did the modern analysis, and they have even translated what it was said. So for now, it's just, if you want the detail of this, I can give you. So similar painting can be found in Tibet. This is one of the oldest remaining mural painting in Tibet. Dathang Monastery, 11th century. And only one part of the mural remains. You can see the water damage. They couldn't save the rest of the mural painting, so it's the only remaining. And you can see these figures also has some Newar influence. Newars would never make round oriel. It's always square. This is the distinct style we created. So again, this is in Tibet. This is Yuling Kur cave number 4. So distinct figures, and it has 5 Buddhas in it. So my argument is, this is done around 13th century when Arnika was at its best, and it has 5 Buddhas on top. Normally only Newars, especially in Kathmandu Valley, we write 5 Buddhas on top. So this is my argument. And not just this, and this is very similar. So most of the art historians now believe that this was made either at the time of Arniko or by himself, Arniko. And there is also in Gyume Museum this size Mahakala, and they believe it's done by Arniko because they couldn't find that size and particular style any other similar piece in Tibet. So they believe it's done by Arniko. So you can find the similarities. I think most of the friends that are artists here or people who know art, so you can see the distinct similarities. Pagoda style. Pagoda style. And here 5 Buddhas. And you can make, when you look at this, most of the Newars, they just feel the similarities. And this was the time when, still Arniko's time. So this is the clear contribution of Newars in Dunhuang in China. So these are some of the indications. There are many these sites to be found. And in China, I think there are more than 1,000 caves. In India, there are 650 caves. Out of them, I think 20% are, 30% may be Hindu, but rest Buddhist. But here in Dunhuang, there are 940 caves. 100 times more than Ajanta. And the total painting would be about 30,000 square meters. And out of that, to find Newar painting is like finding a needle in a haystack. But it was easy for me because I chose the date. I took the date when Tibet invaded Dunhuang 3 times. So this is not Tibetan invasion, but this is Yuan invasion when Arniko was the chief artisan. So he improved. He took Indian style and Newar style, and because he was in Tibet, he also took some of the ideas. And of course, in China, he took many of the Chinese ideas. So he blended and made a new style of art. So that is the biggest contribution. And Arniko was in front, but there were many artists who worked, many artists from Nepal also maybe. And we have some of the evidences. Like this is one of the evidences. And I'll show you more new evidences. This I showed many times. This is Gagan Singh Bharo and the donor scene in Chalur Monastery. You can see the similarity in the facial structure. The 3/4 profile, which is normally not used by Indians and Tibetans. This is very typical. You can see this and this. Even the mustache and beard is similar, the hand painting. And if you just see some other paintings, I'll show you later some more similarities. The new painting I found in Gyume Museum. So this is one of the very unique similarities. This is 1470, and this is around 13, maybe 1330. It's very close, and this painting was done in. Do you know? Some of you remember where this was found? I mean, the inscription stated the place of this painting. I suppose it's Banepa. So he was the army general and two wives, and this painting was for for the guti. So you can see many items here, very typical Newar, but this is made in Kathmandu Valley. And this inscription, it has very interesting inscription. Though this is a portrait of a general, this inscription says of religious thing. And at the end, on the complete painting, there are Hindu deities on top. But at the end, it's very interesting. He says, if the guti does not follow the rules, Pancha Buddha will curse on him. This is very unique inscription. So though this is a Hindu painting, maybe a Hindu general, or maybe a Buddhist general, but the inscription at least says something of 5 Buddhas. So you can see how important 5 Buddhas were at the time. And you can see the similarity there. And not just that, red and red. This background is very typical to Newar painting. Even today, is Logdai there? Logdai says this is very typical to Newars because Tibetans don't do it and they cannot do it. And this was done at the under Drapa Gyalten, who came from Beijing as the ambassador of Yuan court. So the logic is he must have brought some Newar artists from Arnipur. Or maybe he employed the local Newars of Chikache. Because Chikache, Newar gave the name for Chikache as Chikache. So it's like a small Newar town there. So there were many artists. And Annie Heller, in her book, many times says, if you have a brush, you can travel. Like Newars, like if you're an artist, you can go to Tibet and make money. And there are stories, if you just read some of the nice stories like Nor Monastery, if you just read some of the stories, it's very interesting how Newar artists were prized there. When I went to Nor Monastery, it was so difficult to find the Nor Monastery because it's in a very isolated place, and now there is no traces of Newar painting. One is Akhiraz. So he says these were two famous artists who did lots of mirror painting and scroll painting in Nor Monastery under Kunga Jampo. And there's a story that the great master spread the incantations, and these two artists were spelled, and they just certainly went towards Tibet without any intention. And they were lured by many monasteries to stay back. They say, we give you more gold, just spend for us. No, he didn't. He didn't stop at any place. He went straight to Nor Monastery. And why Nor Monastery invited Newar artists? Because of Mustang. You see, in Mustang you find lots of Newar artists. And there Kunga Jampo saw Newar paintings and invited the Newar painters. So this is a different story. Mustang is Nepal now, so the contribution to Nepal is just our own. So I haven't included anything here. So you see the face. This is the face very similar to Newars, and we just celebrated this festival when I saw a picture of young boys and girls drinking chang from that we call it Hatha Hagu. So from that, and this is the painting we've found in in Tian Monastery, and there are many. Almost whole monastery has a Randana inscription, and this I think is one of the contributions of Newar artists in Ladakh, and there are immense treasure done by Newars. The stupas in She Monastery, and there are big Buddhas were made in 17th century by Newars. These are mostly statues. So I'm showing you some painting, and this is one of the mural paintings from Gyanche, the fortress. You can see the distinct Newar feature. And this is Phalkar Chode. I have no, I don't have the whole outer stupa of this monastery. This monastery is in a very unusual stupa shape. It has 100 chambers, and every chamber have painting like this. And unfortunately, there is not a single inscription of Newar artists. Foreigners mostly found. There was some inscription, but all Tibetan names. So I was very surprised because this monastery was very close to Nepal, and there were many Nepalese residents there, many artists. Why there's no inscription? Maybe the problem, like they translate the names. Like if they have to say Naresh, maybe they say Galpo, king. They don't write Naresh because it's very difficult for them to pronounce that. Maybe that is why they just translated all the names. And why I think there are Newars in this monastery. So you please take a look at this. This is unpublished. Now they are displaying maybe next year in Human Museum, where they're from France. So I just found this painting in the cellar. It was on the 3rd floor, very cold, temperature control, very nicely placed. I was very happy. Here in our museum, I found one painting, 1430, Vajrasattva, almost at the same time. And when I went after earthquake, there was water seepage in the box. I couldn't take the picture because the glass had the water strain, and I immediately told there was one Newar curator, we have to take this out, and she said, we have to coordinate with 3 different people to open the box. So I think with that damage, I don't think it would just be safe, and maybe if they take it out, even the moisture must have damaged a lot. But here they kept this very temperature controlled, and the person who came with me to this monastery, to this museum, she said, I'm not going to come to that 3rd floor because I just have one t-shirt and it's so cold. I just wait there on the ground floor. So they really they just removed the shoot on this painting. When this is 1488, and the speciality of this painting is, you see, this motif. This is, of course, it has inscription in Newar language. It has date. So this is very distinct. That is done from. This is brought from Kathmandu Valley, but it's not clear whether it was stolen or this collector just gifted them. I think it's good that they don't display the stolen pieces anymore in the international museums. They have some nice pieces in the cellar which are stolen. They want to give it back, but our authority is not willing to take it. So they are trying to give it. We are not willing to take it. So this is the evidence. You can see this distinct style and this style. And also, Logdai says this is very typical Nepali pattern. Well, we don't have to argue. This is done here in Kathmandu, and this you can see the same monastery where there is no Newar name, the same style. And this you can find not just in Tibet, also in Mustang and many in our paintings. So my argument is there must have been some Newar artists. So the contribution is used. And this is very distinct. I just couldn't take the nicer picture. Maybe I could ask for a nicer painting picture later. You see, this is Salu Monastery. The position and this is so similar. Even the curator was very amazed. You know, she was arranging everything, but she missed the style, and she was very happy. And when she saw, oh, this is Salu Monastery style. And the most interesting and the most important finding is Kansu province. This is Tumha. I told you earlier there are 940 caves, around 2,500 statues, and more than 24,000 meters of painting, starting from 360 AD till 5th century. So the time is used, and the influence is great from different styles. Persian style, because Persia was very powerful, so they have traders coming and they have lots of influences. The Chinese dynasties are so great. They are very they are unicist. They try to control big areas, unlike Kathmandu Valley. Before Prithviraj Shah, this valley was just 3 kingdoms. But still, we did a lot of contribution. So this is one of the very rare findings. And cave 465 is one of the most important caves in Tumwan. And if you want to visit this, you have to take the prior appointment with 500 yuan for 10 minutes. This is a prize cave, and it has the best Newar art. This is one, and you can see the Chinnamasta. We have Momor Gully just there, 500 meters or even 200 meters. We have a lane named after this god, Momor Gully. And people call it Momor because it's a long, so you just don't want to walk, it's Momor Gully. It's Momor, Mo is the head. So there is no head. So, and the argument is, Chinese never draw naked figures because they are Mahayanis, they are not Bajrayanis. So this is one of the evidence. And why? Because it's Arniko time. Arniko and his companions were Bajrayanis from Kathmandu Valley, so they had the idea. And why they made this? It's not the main figures, I tell you. I didn't bring the whole caves figure, it's very difficult. These are very small ones, maybe decorative motifs. The main deity is different. Some are Mahayanis, some are less tantric. These are small pieces. I just enlarged them. So the Chinese commissioned for certain figures, and Newars did what they liked the best. Maybe the guru also instructed certain tantric deities. But this is very, very typical in Newar. And you wouldn't find in other caves, very few. Only in this cave you can find some very typical Newar paintings, like Yogi. And this, I just found it from Madan Chitrakar book, Karakoto. This is the end of Silk Road. And there's some interesting paintings to relate. This is from Xinjiang Silk Road. And you can see some of the very interesting, you can see the mustache very similar. This rounded and this with the boots. very Mongolian style. This is from Wangat in Lalitpur, just near Gabahar. There are 5 Chaturmaras. This is one of it. And on this building, on the back side, also they have many mural paintings. So my conclusion, I want to show you some of the mural paintings of our area to make you aware of the importance of remaining painting. Like we have seen the contributions of Newar artisans. This is just the fraction of mural and Pawa paintings. We have manuscript paintings. We have Bilan Pao, Tulan Pao. We have many different kind of art, and this is just a painting. We have sculptures. We have terracottas. We have architectures, which most of the Westerners are interested in. See this house, and this is very, very earthquake resilient. You can see the Chukwa, we call it, the Germans, and the German university who were interested about the culture, they were interested in the joints. You see, Golden Temple was renovated just 6 months before the earthquake, and there was not a scratch. It's a very tall building, and you see the Shota, 3-story, and it's all gone in 5 seconds. And Bungamati in 5 seconds, because they never renovated. The structure itself is not the problem, it's the renovation. And here, we made painting all over Asia, and see the condition. I'll show you some of the condition of our paintings. See this condition. This is one of the last remaining old paintings in Kathmandu Valley, Santipur. Most people never have seen this, because this is very unusually placed figure. Santipur, have you been to Santipur, Swayambhu? So it's very interestingly placed. You go to the main Thoka, and it's on the top. And when you turn, you just go out, because there's a light, and it's anti-light on top. You will never see it. And this is one of the last remaining painting. And I have written an article for her to aware her face, and to, if possible, to redo it. And the house has one wall missing, because the next house is demolished, so it's all exposed, so it's unstable. So this house withstood 2 earthquakes, and it has one of the finest mural paintings just remaining. And you see, some of the houses, they don't care. This is a very old painting. It has one very distinct style. This is somewhere in Lagan, and the house owner was a Tibet businessman, and his wife was Tibetan lady. So they have very Newar style, but Tibetan motif. Like they have Bajrapani as protector, and so they wanted their own Tibetan flavor. So Newar eyes, but Tibetan deities. And you see this. Wenxiang said that the houses are painted. We have very nice, interesting Byagari Jatak painted on the private houses. So the contribution is huge. There's huge contribution. What can we do? Only we can do record, but we can do something with our own remaining paintings, or there are many things to be done. So this is the time. Now, with earthquake, now we have seen how devastating it is. Now we have contributed a lot in Asian art, at least in painting style. Now we have seen it. Now the remaining paintings are there, and who's going to save it? And I have noted almost 10 different sites who have dismantled their houses with the painting. And some people try to save it, but we don't have technology. And I just I wrote to many important people, and they say, this is private house. and they cannot do anything. And we have in our constitution, I think, 100-year-old craftsman's antique that belongs to government. That at least our government is responsible for it. And the painting I indicated just in Talacha, no, Porco, yes. It's 103-year-old. So government should take responsibility. It's one of the remaining paintings. So this is my idea. So if you have some questions, we can discuss.